We have Janet, Alan, Ginny, Milton, Dick, Nancy, Sherry, Andy in attendance, and Susan. We do record this part of the meeting. And let me just remind everyone once again of our civility principles. Speak kindly, don't speak ill. Accept and give constructive criticism. Apologize earnestly. Respect others' opinions. Respect other people's time. Okay, announcements of closed special meetings. There were several. Just please bear with me as I read them. There was a closed meeting of the Architectural Resource Committee on Monday, November 13th. In attendance were Sherry Faneroff, Deb Bach, Eva Marie Lambert, and Tom Mungle. The vote to close was 4-0-0. It was closed under Section 4, consultation with staff, personnel, consultants, attorneys, or other persons in connection with pending and potential litigation. Meeting was closed at 1:05 p.m. and opened at 3:15 p.m. And the reason to close was discussion of new and ongoing covenant cases. There was a closed meeting of the Board of Directors on November 27th, 2017. In attendance were Dick, Lynn, Janet, Milton, Nancy, Greg, Andy, Ginny, and Sherry. The vote to close was 8-0-0. It was closed under Section 1, discussion of matters pertaining to employees and personnel. Meeting was closed at 8:38 p.m. and opened at 9:30 p.m. And the purpose of the meeting was the midterm evaluation of the CA president. Was a closed meeting of the Architectural Resource Committee on Monday, December 11th. In attendance were Deb Bach, Eva Marie Lambert, Tom Mungo. The vote to close was 3-0-0. It was closed under Section 4, consultation with staff, personnel, consultants, attorneys, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation. It was closed at 1:03 p.m. and opened at 2:40 p.m. And the reason, purpose was discussion of new and ongoing covenant cases. There was a closed meeting of the Audit Committee on Monday, December 11th, 2017. In attendance, the committee members at that point were Nancy, Andy, Greg, and Jim Young. It was closed under 1 and 4, discussion of matters pertaining to employees and personnel, and consultation with staff, personnel, consultants, attorneys, board members, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation or other legal matters. The first part of the closed meeting went from 7:05 p.m. to 8:14 p.m., and the second part of the closed meeting went from 9:20 p.m. to 10:17 p.m. The purpose of the meeting was to review outsource report and review several internal audit reports and consultation with staff, personnel, and legal matters. And that completes the closed meetings that I have.
Back to the meeting about the mid-year presidential.
Yeah.
I didn't remember hearing my name on the attendance, and I know I was there.
I don't have you listed. You were there?
I was there.
Yeah,
I was in the room.
I saw him.
Okay.
I'm all there, but I was there.
He was physically there.
Okay, we'll add you, Alan. And we need the minutes from that meeting. Sherry? We need the minutes from that meeting.
Oh,
Remember, you were...
you're right.
Yes,
That's what
you
happens
were...
when you
Oops.
volunteer.
Which might actually have helped me. You know?
I'm not sure I was there.
Yeah, if you could get them to me
You weren't.
as soon as possible, that would be
I'm sorry.
appreciated.
Yeah.
It would have been bad to us.
Sorry, Alan. I guess yeah, we'll try to do better next time.
It's okay.
Okay, approval of agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So
Nancy and second by Ginny. And then Ginny's going to
Would this be
add.
the appropriate
Yes.
time for me
Yes.
to ask that the agenda be amended to add for January 25th, board meeting, a chance for the residents to discuss, to share their concerns about BWI noise and what's been happening, et cetera, any recommendations they have with the board, with time, the usual time limitations.
Let's put that under 6B3,
Okay.
right after the independent auditors. Anybody have any difficulties with that? Is that acceptable? Okay, so given that modified agenda, all those in favor of our modified agenda? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Disclosure of conflicts of interest, none were disclosed to me. Go on to reports. President's report, Milton, your end of the year year in review.
Any, excuse me, any questions?
I had a question.
Yes.
So I actually never knew we had a Haven on the Lake website, so I was surprised to see it. It's a very nice website, but it made me wonder why some of our other assets don't have their own websites.
The primary reason why we have a separate one from Haven, because we basically look at that as a separate entity from others. When I first got here, we had a lot of different websites, and one of the things that was very important is make sure that the message was coming from CA as opposed from a number of different departments. That's why we also have limited number of social media websites. But we have treated Haven separately because it's marketed differently than from our fitness clubs. And that's the reason why it happens. And the clientele is generally different. And so that's why it has a separate website.
I think it's reasonable that it has a separate website, but I'd like to add to our tracking log that we revisit the social media. So I attend the Art Advisory Committee, and they are frequently curtailed in how well they can get their message out by their inability to market themselves. So while their events are on the CA website, they're not super easy to find, and they're only the most recent ones, like the ones that are coming up in a day or two. They don't, if you dig down, you can find it, but it's a challenge for them, and they have seen the difference. I don't know if they have actual numbers, but from the time where they were able to have their own Facebook page, for instance, till now, they feel like it's a lot more difficult for them to reach out to people and to get that message out. So they rely a lot on word of mouth and that kind of thing, but it seems to me that it benefits CA for their programming to thrive. And so I wonder if there's some compromise. I totally get the unified messaging, and I'm supportive of that, but I'm just wondering if there's some middle ground where they could have a little bit more editorial control over their own messaging, so that they can make sure that they get their message out. And, I don't know, and maybe other amenities have a similar challenge. Maybe not, but, definitely there they see an impact from that decision.
Alan.
You said something that interested me just now, Milton. If I understand what you said correctly, a majority of our Haven customers are not also members of our other fitness clubs.
Well, no, they are. I guess, yeah, I want to believe that majority of them are not fitness club members, because we market Haven not as a fitness club, but as a wellness retreat.
I guess
Now we have
I guess
members.
I'd like to know that. Do we have numbers, Dan?
Actually, the majority of our Haven members are CA members and they're add-on. That is the
Okay.
majority.
That's what I thought, yeah. $10 or something a month, or it's gone.
No,
it's gone up.
not that.
That was the.
It's gone up.
yes.
Let Dan finish. Let Dan.
But the services and delivery at Haven and the branding is separate and distinct from the core CA facilities. So to avoid confusion, it was decided early on to market it separately. But the majority of our members are CA members, and they take advantage of the add-on rates.
It does strike me that, I don't want to get in the weeds of the website, but it'd be nice to maybe just have a page, click here for CA facilities, and they'd all be listed there, little icons for each one, and somebody could just click on Art Center and go to theirs, whatever they want to have for their site, could click on
Well, now there is a place on the website where you can do a drop down and shows all of CA's facilities.
Okay. Might be
Yeah,
nice.
it's just not
People are
super
doing things.
straightforward.
People are doing things these days with pictures and tiles, and that might.
Well,
be
and I acknowledge we are into probably within the next year we will do a refresh of our website because we can't say this is what is in place for 3 years because it just changes so fast.
Do we ever do focus groups after we develop a website? Do
We
we
get
ever get the arts community to, and, other groups involved
We
and
get focus groups
residents?
before we
Both,
came out.
before and after. Do we do that?
Not aware of after. We did a focus group before we came up with this
Okay.
because we basically came up with a brand new website. I came here in 2014. I think it was within 2015 or something like that.
Well, we did, after we launched the newest website, we did reach out to all the advisory committees and ask them to test it and give us feedback on it before it went fully live or right after. I can't remember the exact timing, but we did reach out to all the advisory committees and ask them to, they were kind of our test group, to give us feedback so they could look for the information they wanted and give us feedback in general on the website.
If I hear what Janet's saying, if you're doing an event, you really want to get that out there way before the event or, a week or so, 2 weeks, so that people come. And if that's not happening and it's
Well, I
not
won't-
user-friendly,
Wouldn't go
I
as
can
far
see
as
why
it's
that-
not happening. We can have the conversation, and I need
Okay.
to have Norma here in summer
Okay.
because we have designated staff person that deals with as part of his job responsibilities is social media, and I think we have 4 or 5 different forms of social media that we use every day.
Okay, and maybe it's an education thing. That's
Right.
So,
Could we get a presentation on that? Or?
Okay, yes. Well, I think Janet, your request was to have a conversation added to the.
yeah, I mean,
Tracking.
I'd like to have it on the back, or
Right.
whatever we call it, our tracking log, so that eventually it comes up for discussion. But yeah, just to revisit what the possibilities are, and it may be that the tools are there. We just need to sort of
Right.
educate people about how to use them or make sure.
Okay, anything else on Milton's report? Dick?
I've got a couple of questions. First of all, on the we were talking about putting on an RFP for a design firm to take a look at the lakefront. What's been the progress on
No, those dollars are in the budget.
that? But we haven't
No,
we
don't
haven't
have-
put the RFP out.
No,
Okay.
we don't have the money for anything yet.
Okay.
We haven't approved the money yet.
No, I was wondering if there was anything going on there. Thank you. The other thing, a year or so ago, we got a presentation on village signage,
Yes.
and the board made some comments, made some suggestions, and we never got a response on those. And I understand that some of the villages have been approached to revise their signage. And from what I've heard, there's been some pushback on that. I was just wondering what the situation is at this point.
I would have to follow up. I haven't heard any pushback from the village. I have to follow up from where we are in the
Well,
process.
specifically, when Andy and I were, I think it was River Hill, it came up in the meeting. Wasn't it? I'm not sure. River Hill.
So our board has had some pushback. I think they've maybe already resigned
But
themselves.
I know Harper's Choice did, but I thought there was another one too. I just
Oakland Mills just wanted to make sure we were involved in the process.
Yeah, I was a little concerned that that we didn't see a second proposal after some of the suggestions we made, because as I recall, the board was quite concerned about some aspects of the program.
Well, as I said, I can follow up, but the biggest thing we wanted was was trying to standardize the sign. The content of what was placed on the sign was less of the thing we wanted. We didn't want to standardize that. We just wanted to have a typical size, because
No,
if you look at them now,
Yeah.
because every time I'm
they're all
on
over the
108,
place.
I
Yeah.
look at that big mine that I think is very impressive, the one for Harper's Choice. But compare that to the other villages.
Yeah, I just wanted to get an update on where we're going on that, because as a matter of fact, my village was, we've got an oval thing that's set into some brick walls, and I think one of the suggestions that was made is instead of standardizing all the signs, we have some kind of a snipe or a separate sign or saying something, this is a Columbia Village, but I just like to know where we are on that.
We can find out where we are.
Okay, thank you. That's all I've got.
Oh,
One of those things, you mentioned the lakefront, that reminded me, I wanted to ask Milton, do we know my understanding is that Hughes's plan is to put a building on what we're now using as parking for the Haven.
Yes.
And what's the plan for parking at the Haven?
It's going to be they're going to be designated spots. Remember, the parking, that building is going to have parking on the lower level, and the condos are going to be on the top of it. And there are going to be designated spots in the parking structure.
And while it's being built?
I can't say while it's being built.
Our lease with Howard Hughes requires them to provide parking, so it's not all, but throughout the operation of that, throughout the lease term.
Are there either common law restrictions on what I mean? Could they say you can park over on the mall parking lot?
I don't know. I'd have to look at what the lease says. Yeah, I don't recall.
Thanks.
But the lease does take care of that.
thanks, Milton. It's actually a good summary for the year in review. Okay, next we have report from Inner Arbor.
I had
Yeah, I was going to say, neither Lynn nor Greg are here. The most we can do is,
Milton series.
Milton, you
I do my best. Yes, Dick.
I was just wondering if there'd been any further. Well, first of all, Lynn had told us that they were looking at revising the plans for the butterfly because of, I guess, for financial reasons. Do you have any follow up on that?
No, we had a board meeting. There's been one board meeting since the last CA board meeting. No, we haven't started that.
Okay, and
aware that there's that consideration, or are you not aware that there's that consideration?
I'm aware that we were looking at the butterfly building, and that's the next building that the trust is focusing on, and they're not tied to what was originally approved.
Were you aware that Dick said, I don't want to mistake your words. Your words were?
well, specifically, Lynn told me, and I think Nina might have even mentioned this as well, that they were re-examining the plans for the butterfly. They were talking to the architects on that project, and I'm not sure that it was specifically said, but I got the impression it was a financial issue. They didn't see they were going to be getting the $7 million to build it as it was originally planned, and I was just wondering if there'd been any further discussions on that.
Well, we haven't talked about it from a financial point of view. We've talked about it from the point of view of what's realistic and what is practical for today. That was a concept.
Oh, okay. No,
so
yeah.
That's the conversation.
Well, the whole thing's a concept. So this is the concept we're focusing on right now, and I was just wondering where that was going. The other thing, of course, was there any discussion about where the proposed pathways would go in? Okay, because that's going to be a serious issue since the whole thing is a concept,
Right.
and some of those concepts may require rerouting of some of the conceptual pathways.
Well, I think at the time at the budget hearing when the budget discussion, that was it was, I'm not going to say it was a given, but it was understanding that those pathways would have to be revisited because you want to make sure the pathways goes to a property as opposed to just wandering out where something was conceptually supposed to be.
Okay, well, I have talked with members of the Inner Arbor board, and yes, does seem to be some awareness that some aspects of the plan are going to need to be revisited. And since we are talking about pumping $500,000 into whatever they're doing, I'm curious to know just what they're planning on doing, because the proposal I saw showed the original pathway system without any rethinking as to what might actually be constructed.
Well, that's the pathway system. There was a site development plan that was approved, and that's what's still anything that's contrary to that. And Al can explain. We would have to go back and have that amended.
As with the butterfly.
Right.
So I mean, everything is up in the air right now, and I'm not proposing anything. I'm just asking where it stands right now. And you haven't.
And the discussions are still there with the board.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Jenny?
Yeah, well then help me with, in terms of this board voting for the budget in February, or the public testifying in January, what will they and we know for sure about how this money would be spent if it was approved by the board?
I'm not in a position to answer that, because
Okay.
that's a conversation that the trust board is having.
Okay, so we would know before we vote, though.
Yeah, we have. I'm not going to say their approval. You're going to have an idea of what they right now. When it comes to the trust, the focus, we have the chrysalis in place. The next project is to focus on the butterfly. And any pathways, I want to believe, and it would be my position, it would be built to those facilities that we know the chrysalis is in place and the butterfly is the next project. There's no point in building pathways to facilities, whatever is left, concept where we don't know whether they're going to actually be built.
So help me understand how you guys do the budget then. Would the wording on the Inner Arbor Trust line item in the budget for whatever, $500,000, is it?
That's
The
about
budget for this year?
No.
250,000 for this year?
Split it.
yeah, $250,000 this year.
250,000 for this year.
And
Okay.
then again-
Would the wording be such that it would say like what you're saying?
I'm not going to say that.
Oh. Well, I guess that would help if we were pretty clear on if you're giving somebody money, it's for the pathways in certain areas or certain conditions, and it's to be used for that only. That's sort of what I'm getting at. Okay.
No?
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you, Milton, that it doesn't make sense to build pathways to nothing. And yet, my understanding is the way the phasing is, the pathways are actually the next thing, not the butterfly.
Well, the pathways, because there's no pathways right now going to the chrysalis. And that's one of the concerns we have, is that we have this venue now that we want to use more and more, but they're walking on topography that's uneven, and so it's not a good experience for them. So that's right now the focus. And also, I want to be careful. I'm one board member. And I'm not
You're
the chair of it.
You're the only one
I'm
who's
not
here
the
right
chair
now.
of it either. But that's the way we. That's
Or one of our representatives who is.
Yes, but I have to respect. I'm not the chair, and I'm one. There are six. Well, actually 7.
I'm not asking you to tell us something that the board hasn't decided. But my understanding was the pathways were next. And what I'm hearing you say is they may not be.
No, I'm not saying there's not. The pathways is what the trust has requested assistance funding from the CA board. But the butterfly building is also something out there, because we know that we're going to have to do private fundraising for that.
Okay, thank you.
So I would suggest that, what would be good, particularly like for Jenny and Dick, if you could kind of put your suggestions, questions in an email and send it to Greg and Lynn, since they're not here.
Okay.
Um,
And Nino or whatever.
yeah, and that way it kind of gives them notice that
Okay.
this is an important question that
Thank you.
should be addressed by the budget. Because the fact that Nina and Greg aren't here right now, they're not going to hear it.
Oh, Lynn, great.
Lynn and Greg, sorry. Lynn and
Whatever.
Greg.
Well, you can send your questions to me also. I can make sure.
All three.
Get it.
Send it to all three of our
You will
reps.
be carbon dioxide.
Janet.
I just wanted to support what you just said, Milton, and that is that the paths should be logical based on what is definite, and should not be
speculative.
Well, it should not be based on just the original plan simply because that was the original plan, and I hope that you'll represent that on the board if you feel
Well,
that.
yeah, and I'm not a proponent, once again, speaking only for me, I'm not a proponent of building pathways to nowhere that don't connect to it, that don't take us
We've been in
anywhere.
agreement. I am fully supportive of pathways in Symphony Woods, and I want to see them too, because clearly the chrysalis has been a good amenity. But I am concerned that they are going to move ahead with the planned paths, and so I'm just hoping that you'll let your voice be heard on the board. And
My voice is heard.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
All right, now move on to financial reports. So I will ask Nancy, our chair of the audit committee.
I didn't bring that precious piece of paper where I wrote this down, but they did present the financials, which I believe everyone received copies of. And we do, thank you, except I wrote myself a note on it, so yours won't help at all.
I have some notes in here.
Read
my notes.
Did you
Her
read
notes. She has her notes.
We needed to approve the financials. The board needs to approve them.
Well, we accepted
we-
the financials.
We accept them, but don't we have to get the board doesn't have to? Then they have
When we
to do-
get to the tax stuff, then we do have to approve
Oh,
that. But for the financials, we just accept
Accept
them.
okay, good.
Well,
And what you can say is that the audit committee reviewed the financials and
And they were fine.
they were fine.
And there was a vote to send the 990
Yes.
to the board.
Oh, okay, well, we're not on the 990 yet.
No, okay, no, just,
I was jumping ahead to that as well.
Okay, so any questions? No questions of financial reports. All right, then we go into board actions, consent agendas. Hearing no discussion, we'll approve the minutes from November 9th. Now, we move on to the 990s.
well, we did
Let Nancy go first.
approval of the minutes.
It was consent.
we're doing that consent.
We did a
Yeah.
consent.
So it just automatically.
Everything
No, but
gets
remember-
put into that.
We had changed.
That was we haven't done that one yet.
Okay.
Sorry, we haven't done that one yet.
Okay.
Okay, so the 990 was looked at by the audit committee and was approved that it be sent to the board. Is this right?
Yes.
Okay, and so now you get to tell us whether or not you approve it. So we need a motion to approve the 990
And the 990T.
and the 990T.
All right, so Dick is moving.
And we need a second. Janet seconds.
Janice second.
All in favor?
Wait.
He's
Any
the
discussion?
chair.
Let me ask if there's
Was
any
there any discussion? I
first.
never
Yeah.
want
I
discussion.
know, you want to say right to the
We're getting cold.
So is there any discussion on the 990? And that's in the public set. Alan?
I should know the answer to this, but since I don't, let me betray my ignorance. Without going into too much detail, what non-business related, what are our sources of non-business related that go on in 990T?
It's advertising, 100% of that revenue. It's
Money
under
that we get
$3,000 from
people.
from advertising. It's the we had this the previous digital signage in the gyms was a third-party vendor, and it ran advertising on it, and the revenue we got from that had to be reported as taxable income.
Interesting. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the 990, 990Ts? Looks unanimous. Thank you. Which is good because they were due by the December 31st.
Oh, good.
Okay, now move on to the approval for the independent auditors for 2018. Nancy, do you want to say a few words?
No. No, you'd go ahead.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry I left my notes at home.
So the excuse me, the audit committee reviewed the selection of the independent auditors, and a new firm has been chosen. Do you remember the name?
Oh,
Clifton Larson Allen.
How do they spell Allen?
The wrong
That could influence my vote.
ALLEN.
Oh, well,
All one word.
Yes.
All one word.
it is.
And so the
they gave us a really good price. And they're very highly respected.
Well, this was also done competitively.
Yes.
I mean, you have to understand that the choice was there was an RFP put out. People came back with the best and final. There's a committee that reviewed it, and then the audit committee did the final approval. And so the audit committee is asking that the board appoint Clifford Highgrave
Really?
as the auditor for 2018. So is there a motion to approve the auditor for 2018?
Don't we
Dick
just-
moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Janet seconded. Okay, any discussion? Alan?
I'd just like to know, in what way or ways did this particular auditor, I understand it's the recommendation, but nobody's perfect, in what ways might they have fallen short of what the audit committee fully wanted?
I'm not sure that they would say that they've fallen short. They've actually been an audit. They were our auditors before the Cohen-Resnick. So they're familiar with CA. So they have been audited.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing? The audit committee?
Good, because we're kind of a unique organization, and trying to explain to a new auditor.
Get that. There's also the question of getting too cozy and familiar, which is why we have to
Right.
change.
Well, there's
Which
a
is-
provision in there that Susan helped me where
They attested to their independence
Right.
from the Columbia Association, and it's not even as far as I know, no one who worked on the job, and that was 6 years ago, is even participated in the RFP process. They're required to be independent, and
Okay. No, I'm not questioning that they're wonderful, but I say nobody's perfect, and make a decision among several entities. There's always pros and cons.
I was at the meeting, and I will say that there was a good deal of discussion, and there were a lot of this, versus that, and I think it largely came down to a good price with a highly qualified organization, and it looked to me from just watching the discussion that it had been very carefully thought through, so I can vouch for it. And I'm, as an independent person who wasn't even on the audit committee, it sounded reasonable.
Any other discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor of appointing Clifton Larson Allen LLP as external auditor for 2018? Opposed? And Ginny, was it yes?
4.
4. Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we are down to, for your information, hopefully you did all see the press release about the millennials.
So wait, hold on. You added an agenda.
Oh, sorry. Yep. I'm sorry. I forgot that. Okay. January 25th board meeting. Ginny would like to, the original meeting on January 25th had time set aside for a discussion on airport noise. The BOC removed that from the agenda. And Ginny is asking if the full board might be willing to to add that back onto the agenda. Is that my correct?
For the purpose of listening to the residents and their concerns, and anybody, but not necessarily to be taking a position that maybe we need more information, et cetera, but just for the purpose of listening to the residents. And I think that was the original intent when it was first scheduled to be on the agenda.
So
So I'm asking it be reinstated is basically that, and I know there'd be a time limit.
Alan and Sharon.
No, I was going to say what she said.
Oh.
Oh.
And
You
said
could probably say it better.
No, you said it.
Yeah, so I guess my question, Ginny, is there some reason why this needs to be done in January as opposed to February, March? I mean, what I'm sensing is that you're feeling that there's some pressure here for the board to hear this in January. Why would that be?
Well, I think that was the commitment the board had made months ago. I think we've been trying to get it on the agenda for maybe 3 or 4 months, and it was on the agenda. It was taken off, and I'm just asking it to be reinstated. And, I don't see why you wouldn't want to hear it. I'll argue it from the other point of view. Why not?
Well, I think
Because you'll get an update about what's happening at the state level, what's happening at the local level, what's happening with the Attorney General. You'll listen to the residents' concerns, and then you can think about it, and maybe there's something you want to do or some follow-up you might want that you'd want to do in a timely fashion, where if we keep putting it off, we may miss an opportunity to check up on something. So, and I think some of us are hearing concerns about this. I don't know if any-
that's what I was asking.
Right.
If you are hearing, I have not heard any concerns from my
okay.
village or any of the
yeah.
people
I've
that
been
I know.
hearing a lot. I don't know if anybody else wants to.
Yeah.
All right, so
That's-
if
yeah.
that is a driver, if people have something that they need to say and they need to hear it in this forum, I do know that in previous years, these kinds of discussions had come up, but usually when it passes on to like the county council or to the county government or to other state entities, we usually ask for an update. So is that something that you would want to have included in this? We were saying to have an update. So that's going to take more time, given the amount of time that was available on that agenda. That was my concern.
Well, I think you can get an update from the person that represents Columbia, I guess. Andy, you're the second alternate, or you also?
No, Rusty
But
is.
Paul represents Columbia on that thing, and he can give a really quick update on what's happening. And in fact, he can put it in writing. I think he's done that before.
I was just going to say, didn't he do that?
So, I mean, but where we will be in January, he can give an update, and then you can, ask questions. But I think I don't know, maybe you're not hearing anything, but I certainly am from people, and it's a very serious problem. People are not able to sleep in their bedrooms. They're not able to work at home in some cases. And I thought the CA board actually got an email from somebody. Maybe not. Didn't we all get one just recently? Which was pretty serious. Listing the times the plane was going overhead, which was...
I hadn't seen anything. No.
I guess I thought we all got it.
Oh,
but
and
go
we
ahead.
got a list here going. All right.
I can share some of the emails with you.
Alan?
Yeah, I've heard a little bit of the concern. What has me, I was in favor, I was on the BOC and voted to take it off before because I was thinking that it was already moved sort of out of our hands and progressing, but I'm convinced that it may or may not be something we want to discuss, but to hear from the residents, and for me, the time constraint is that if, based on what we hear, we do decide, enough of us decide that there is something we are alarmed at, that we want to take a stand on, the state would be the place to take the stand, and the legislature, by the end of January, is only in session another couple of months. And so if we waited till February or March, by the time we got into action, they'd be out of session, and then it'd be another whole year before the legislature before we could influence the legislature on anything.
Excellent.
So that,
So you're thinking of testimony,
just hearing
making
from
sure we
people.
get.
And then only if we hear something that's alarming us do we take further action.
Good point.
Dick Milton.
I think Milton was next.
Milton?
My only question is that I don't understand why CA is getting in this mix, especially at this time. I thought there were entities created, whether at the county level or the state level, to receive comments about the noise or alleged noise at the airport. If there's something that CA is going to do, why don't we wait until those bodies have a report or something that we can, because we listening to the residents, why would we be listening to the residents when there's entities that's already created for them to take their concerns to, that are created to take action or offer recommendations?
Well, I think I guess we may differ on this, but if our residents have a real serious concern, I think the least we can do is, within a time limitation, listen to them, listen to what is happening at the state or local level, where as Alan said, if there is any need to support any legislative action, we need to do it right away. And I just feel we owe that to the residents. It may be simply supporting it, Or it may be we're perfectly satisfied that what's happening at the state, what's happening at the local level with the Attorney General is getting the job done, and there's really no role for us. But we won't know until we actually listen and then check up on what's happening at those levels. So it's just, it's 15, 20 minutes, I don't think is a lot of time for us to listen to our residents.
Like Alan, I was at the meeting, and I also voted to take it off the agenda. And the reason was pretty much what Milton said, that we have state, local officials who are supposedly pursuing this. But I think Jeannie's got a good point that it is helpful for us as representatives of our community to show an interest in what the residents have to say. While this doesn't have to be a discussion item, if we could just get an update as to what is going on, it doesn't have to be a long update, but just so people know that we share their concerns and that we hear them. And if there does seem to be something we could do to push this thing along, we could discuss that at that time. But I could see putting 10, 15 minutes into the schedule just to get some customer feedback.
Greg, Janet, Nancy.
Yeah, my only problem is it's going to be a session where many more than 10 or 15 minutes worth of people come in here to vent and provide the details. And I'm not dismissing or discounting their concerns at all. I just don't feel like right now, we know that we can do anything about it. I'd rather have a report from staff or somebody goes out and calls their, Clarence Lamb or the representative and say, okay, what's the deal? How can we best influence this before we, set aside that kind of time? I don't mind doing it. I know and I definitely hear their concerns. I've wondered myself about the planes, just from in my own house. I'm not, I don't think I'm suffering to the same. I know I'm not suffering to the same extent that I've heard from other people, but I just worry we're going to take a lot of time and look really concerned, and then at the end of the day, we're not really the right place for them to go. And so we don't know, for example, is there going to be legislation? We could find that out in advance. Who are these other bodies? What's the current status? Things like that. Before we hear this, I mean, I guess in the meantime, if we could, if they want to send emails, fine. But I just don't want to have a situation where 30 or 40 people come in here and not only vent, but they expect us to do something, right? Because we took all this time, and then at the end of that day or that night, we can't. So I just prefer to do a little more legwork up front before we do that. Maybe we can get it done before the January meeting. I don't know. Maybe we can, but provisionally. So I guess I would vote for it but if we could get some kind of legwork done in advance, and if it turns out we're really not the right place to go, please, could we vote to take it off if all it's going to be is a vent session where we really can't do anything?
Janet, and then Nancy.
So I agree that I think we should have clear goals in mind when we discuss it. If there is movement that's progressing at the state level or any level, it's important for us to track it, but I think it's also important for us to identify when we think it would be important for us to try to step in and take a stand. But I'm also wondering could we on our website, Milton, put links to where people actually can productively
That's a good idea.
complain? Because that way at least we can direct them to our website, say, we're not the right people to take this on directly, but we will help you find the people that you need to talk to.
That's a great
and
idea.
provide those links so that we're offering that service, but we're recognizing that we're not really the best person, the best entity to be dealing with it, but we care, and we'd like to be able to support them, and we will do everything that we can. But in the meantime, here's what you can do right now.
Actually, the BWI committee has a really nice website where they have all the information and
so
also
even if we can just provide
get
some
their
sort of
minutes and you
conduit.
get all the stuff that's been going on.
That's a
Because
fantastic
I've definitely gotten
idea.
a lot of emails, and it would be nice to say, we do care. We recognize that this is an issue. Right now, we don't think we can take that action.
Direct
but-
them to the
Sorry?
website.
And direct them to the website.
Yes,
Nancy.
if we could have something on the website, I like what you've just said. I think that hits it on the nose. except I wouldn't say we can't do anything because
Well, no, I don't think we spelled that out. But
More appropriate venue would be to link your concerns right to the committee, because the committee talks to the FHA and the BWI.
but maybe we could make an effort also. I mean, I'll put it in my notes.
representatives.
But whatever you have, your means of communicating with your village, for example, and maybe Norma could get something out. Because I'm hearing a lot from people. I've heard about windows rattling. I've heard about very late at night and very early in the morning waking children up. People are just really unhappy. So I think that we need to do something on a bigger scale than we normally would to let people know where to find out the information, such as that website and what's being done. And maybe there's a place where they could send an email so that they feel like they're being heard, which I think is also a big part of it, where people get really frustrated. I don't really want to sit through a venting session either, but if you give people an opportunity to send an email and tell us what issues you're having, that might help the group that's working on the problem as well.
Actually, the group that's working on the problem, they set aside time on their agendas for basically people to comment, and they've gotten a lot of folks coming there.
I'm sympathetic to the not wanting to hear a venting session. And also, though, the truth is, at our meetings, people can come and do resident speak out about anything. Mm-hmm. And so the other part that's had convinced me to have it on the agenda is I'd rather have them come knowing that we are, in a sense, welcoming it, that we are saying, yes, we're here, rather than having them come storming the gate saying, you had it on your agenda, then you took it off, and now you don't want to hear from us, gosh darn it, we're gonna make you hear from us, and that sets the wrong tone. So if we came with the ability to say, by the way, on our website you're going to be able to see this, and here's the list of, you can even have a handout that people could have to, here's the list of places to go, and then ask them to do more of the somebody speaks and who else in the audience agrees with me kind of thing, rather than everybody spending 3 minutes saying the same thing. We could limit it and just show that we are
Caring,
caring
listening, caring.
Okay,
Is there somebody from that committee who could?
We'll work about that later.
Okay.
No, I wanted to say something, because I was also the BOC and voted to take it off. And I think my biggest concern is that's the meeting where we're going to be talking about the climate stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we already have a whole room full of people coming to that meeting. And so I gotta admit, part of me is from, do I really want a whole other set of people to come to that meeting along with the climate people, or should we instead put it on a different date where that can basically be the topic that people come? I just have a feeling that if we mix it, the meeting's going to run long already, because we're going to have all the climate people out, because that's when we're going to sit down and discuss the, do we create a committee? What do we do? And I mean, that the room's going to be filled. And now if you add on the agenda topic for airport noise, and you get another 20 people out, okay, it's going to take a lot of time. Greg, you had your hand up.
I think Sherry had her hand up earlier.
No, well, Greg actually before I talked, and then Sherry.
I feel like it's like Family Feud. And
Yeah.
Anyway, no, but seriously, to listen and to care. I get that, but I guess I'm just getting older and more cantankerous. Like, I just don't feel like I'm in the business, and we're in the business here of listening and caring when we can't do something at the end of that. When the climate folks are going to be here because they're going to request that we do so. They've been asking us to have a committee and do some other things. We're going to ask people, we're going to listen, we're going to care. And if it turns out that we can't do anything, not only have we wasted a lot of time, but we've gotten their hopes up for something, and we can't even deliver anything. Like, what's the ask that they're going to bring here? I don't know. But again, that's why I just feel like before we do this, we ought to just start with what Janet is saying, and then have staff perhaps ask them to do a little background research and see what the status of things are. And if it turns out that there is something that we can actually influence with a letter or taking a position or something like that, then it might make sense, right? Then we actually know we can actually do something. I would just like to know that first.
Sherry,
You said that very well, because I was going to say something very similar, which is I really like Janet's idea of using the website, using the mechanisms that we have to get people to get that information out there. So, for example, if I'm not hearing it from my village, but I can go on the website and see what people are reporting, then that makes a difference. The other thing I was going to suggest is that maybe Milton can find out, is there legislation pending? Where things are standing from the commission, from these other organizations that are working on this issue, from the Attorney General. I mean, I think there's some legwork that can be done and just reported back to us that's a much more succinct way of our getting the information, and then we become the pass-through to the community by maybe putting that information up on the website, and then that's the flow. So I think that's a very good middle position. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Janet?
Is it possible to, carve out a 15-minute only for something like, if there's something that we can do, we have 15 minutes to vote on it that night, or,
Oh, well, we can't vote on it.
That's
that
right.
night.
I guess we
We
can't.
won't,
But
I mean, at most, all you do is discuss.
how many you have to discuss it a certain number of times before you can vote on
Yeah,
it.
we would not be able to vote until February.
How long have we discussed just whether to put on the agenda?
Why is that?
But we would still have time with the
Everything we do
legislature
requires two.
to be able to get testimony or a letter or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be my thing, is that if there's something like a letter that would be useful, we would want to decide that sooner rather than later. So I'm not sure the best way to do that, and I'm perfectly happy to put it contingently on the agenda if that's even possible. But
Jenny, you had your hand up.
Yeah, if there is a possibility of doing something and we have to discuss it prior several times, you not only have, it's only a 90-day session, that's almost irrelevant because there's a crossover date. So you really have less time in the legislature to get a position before a hearing. You don't have much time to really do anything. So if you don't have it on the agenda and a discussion so that you can vote and do something, testimony, you wait till February. And I think in February, would we be saying we can't do it then either because that's the budget? We'll be discussing a lot of stuff on the budget. I mean, we'll always have a reason why we can't hear from the residents. So I think, we probably, in my opinion, should have heard from them in November. I've been trying to get this on the agenda, I think, a couple months after I got here. So I don't see the harm in limiting the time, having all the work done in advance so that we have that material to read. And also, I like Janet's idea of we would be sharing it, and that actually could be something Andy says at the meeting. One of the things this board has already done is, and as you say, if you give them a fact sheet that shows where it is on the website, that shows we've already taken some action just in terms of sharing information, linking to the group's website, etc. That shows action. We've cared. We are concerned. This is how you can get information. This is something we've already done, guys. I think that would be a positive for the community. I guess I just don't see the harm for 15 minutes. I'm just missing the point. We're listening to our people. They seem to see board members as people that represent them and should, and care about what's happening in their communities. Now, granted, it isn't happening in all the villages. I understand that. But that's why they want to talk with us, is the sense I'm getting. So.
Can we do the vote?
Sherry.
Yeah, we spent more time on this than.
Yeah, I know. Sherry, yeah, you had your hand up.
No, I was just going to say, well, I also know in the past, though, that the board has requested, for example, a letter from the president without having to do a public to have a specific night set aside for a topic, so that if something comes up and there is legislation pending, and that information goes out to the board, you can simply move to have a letter sent. So, I guess I also feel with Andy that, and with Greg, that we have people who are coming to that January meeting specifically to talk about CA having a new climate committee, which I think is the really important thing that we can do at that meeting. And that is going to be time consuming, and that really is our charge, and will make a big difference to the future of CA and really all of our villages. So I think that is the more pressing issue, whereas the board is not stymied from going ahead with testimony to the legislature if it appears that legislation is coming up and we can take that action.
Call for the vote.
Okay, so do you want to make a motion, Ginny?
I thought I did.
15 minutes, adding.
To the January 25th agenda, to hear from the residents their concerns about the BWI noise, and to request that staff give us more background information in advance of the meeting, or staff of the appropriate individuals give us that information. We can be asking the legislature for that information. We can be asking the Kittleman's office,
the committee.
Brian's, the committee. Yeah, right. But that we have, the idea being we have that information in advance, and that they explore Janet's idea of putting a link on the website. So that would be the motion. Whatever, we've spent enough time on this, guys.
All right.
Let's just.
All those in favor of basically having 15 minutes set aside for discussion for the airport noise? Okay, so that is Janet, Dick, Alan, Ginny. Opposed? Greg? Sherry? Nancy, what should you do?
I'm opposing it.
All right, Andy. All right, that's it. Motion fails. What I will do, though, is I will look at the rest of the agendas we have and see if we can put something in. But what we will do is I will work with Milton to try to basically get a background.
Yeah.
And the website address?
Oh, yeah, and the website address. That can be handled separately. But what we'll try to do is get a background and put it under the FYI so the board sees it. So then the background will at least be there on the web for all the board. Does that sound, Milton?
Yeah. Also, I reached out to the county executive office. I wanted I wanted to find out what position or what was the county doing also. But I can explore finding out what information is out there. So and we can bring it back to the board or just provide it to the board as an FYI.
All right. I already mentioned the FYI. Tracking forms. Board requests, any comments? No?
Do you want to talk about the millennials though?
If you want. It was just an FYI.
I just put in
I was
as
only
a
going to
FYI.
mention that I put it on Nextdoor and had some playful banter from some millennials. So I don't know that they'll actually sign in, but they were making jokes like, "Do we get a trophy?" And I said, "No, only a certificate of participation." So anyway, it was. I found it amusing.
All right. Tracking forms board Request?
Was Janet's item added to the tracking form?
Well, no, she wanted it on the agenda topics log, not the tracking form, right? You wanted it on the agenda topics log.
Yes,
Yeah, and Janet
thank you.
caught that. Good timing. Talking points.
The board approved the minutes of the November 9th, 2017 board meeting. The board approved IRS forms 990 and 992. The board approved the selection of, and I have it right here,
New auditor.
the new auditor. Okay. The board, a motion to add BWI noise to the January 25th board meeting agenda failed.
Indeed. I think the first and last item aren't really are they usually talking points to the minutes?
Usually we don't.
And then
we put in-
a failed motion?
Oh, no. I'm a rookie.
Well, it needs to be in the minutes. All board votes need to. I understand that. I just want to make sure.
Not the
we don't
minutes.
leave the minutes just because they leave the talking points, because she is a rookie. Yeah, she's-
All right. I want to thank you all for your cooperation. We actually got done before 9 o'clock. So we are now going to adjourn, and at 9 o'clock we will be up in the boardroom for our closed meeting upstairs. So I give you 10 minutes to kind of get the restroom and other things. So 9 o'clock we're going to re-adjourn up for the closed
Re-adjourn,
meeting.
that'd
I mean,
be-
sorry.
Reassemble.
Reassemble. Thank you.